Welcome back, everybody. I hope you're all okay. Just want to introduce myself for those who haven't seen me before. My name's Mick Norris. I've been doing podcasts previously. I've not been doing them for the last 2 years because I was unwell. I'm now back on the scene and I'm going to be doing at least one a month to do it. We're going to be doing different topics, and we're going to be putting these topics out every week. We're going to be doing different contents on different platforms, etc. So a little bit about what we're going to be talking about. It'll be talking about the pain points within plumbing and heating companies. It'll also be talking about operations, systems and processes. There's so much that we'll be talking about. In fact, I can't even remember half the stuff that we'll be doing because I've got a prompt in front of me and it's that tiny I can't read it. So basically, there's going to be some interesting stuff, and it's going to be aimed at people that are interested in plumbing and heating, that have got businesses, small businesses, successful businesses, big businesses, etc. It's also going to be involved to the customer as well. So we will be trying to get the customer, the consumer, to get involved and listen to the podcast as well. Because what I'm trying to do is give the awareness of M&R Plumbing and Heating and myself, and what knowledge that we have in the industry and what we've been through to get to where we are today, so that everyone's got an understanding. It's going to be quite interesting for people that are not in the industry as well. So I'd like you to all enjoy what I've got to offer, because we will be releasing and publishing this every week. So today's topic is going to be about pain points, the pain points that we have in a plumbing and heating company, because to be quite frank with you, there's quite a few. So some of this is going to be a little bit negative, but we're going to turn it into a positive. So one of the biggest pain points I had was when I was on my own in a van, and I was getting the calls throughout the day to quote the jobs, which I was missing, and then I was turning up to customers' houses trying to do the jobs and trying to answer the phone. So the biggest pain point I had was customers saying, "You've not got back to me, you've not done this, you've not done that." But the other thing is, I couldn't afford to rent an office out, get a member of the team, or do anything like that. So ultimately I was doing everything. So I'd get up in the morning, typically about 5 o'clock. I'd get everything ready, go out to do the jobs. Bearing in mind, I've been pitching myself till 6, 7 o'clock at night, if not 10 o'clock at night, depending on, what day it was or what season we was in. So basically you're doing like 70, 100 hours a week. So that's, it's a big pain point, that, because a lot of the lads out there, they are earning roughly about £1,000 a week. But when you actually break that £1,000 down into pounds, shillings and pence, they're probably on less than minimum wage. I think the other thing as well, when you've got your own company, you spend a lot of time worrying about everything. You overthink everything. You're looking at everybody else, what they're doing, how they're doing it. So there's a lot of time spent there. So you're in this psyche of, oh my God, is this ever going to end? Another thing is, while you're there, that's a big pain point. While you're there, can you just, and you can't say no. So if you've got 10 jobs on in that day, customers can add on easy 3 hours within that, and you don't want to let them down. So you become almost worse than you was when you was employed, because you're now employed, but the difference is you've got hundreds of employers as opposed to one employer telling you to go this and go there. So that's a big pain point. How did I get around that pain point? What I did is basically started to realise that I was doing loads of different things. The first you have to do, you've got to do toilet repairs, service boilers, boiler installations, general plumbing, fixing boilers. It's endless, and a plumber usually works with about 150,000 different products, so people are not aware of that. So when you turn up to a job, like, why have you not got your materials, why have you not got this? Because ultimately I didn't know what I was going to do. But you fit obs all the time, or you fit boilers all the time, but they don't realise there's so many different fittings, and you'd need a bloody articulated lorry to do that. So going back to how did I get over that, so I carried on doing that. So then I took an apprentice on. My first apprentice was called Gary. He was probably about 17. He's still with us. He's 20 years in now. He's a head engineer, quoting engineer. So we trained him up, which we had our ups and downs, me and Gary, but he came through it. We also then had a girl working in the office. As soon as I could start to make enough money, the problem I had was I was paying money to pay for staff to free my time. But that went on and round in circles for a long, long time. So we basically decided, right, how can we do this? So there was a team at that time. My brother had started for me. I had a girl in the office. I had one of the lads working for me. So I had a team of about 3 with 2 vans on the road. I was still heavily involved on the tools. So ultimately, I was getting up in the morning, writing their diaries out. This was way before. You went back to like year 2002, where they didn't have systems, process and operations. It was always pen and paper, and the best system we had was like Sage and Act, which was pretty archaic to what we've got today. A lot of the stuff and software that's out today gets rid of a lot of these pain points. I'm still shocked and surprised that a lot of the one-man bands and the up-and-coming plumbing companies are not aware of these systems, process and operations. That's a big pain point when you're trying to run a business. You need to know where you are, you need to know where your numbers are, you need to know where everything is at. But when you're a plumbing and heating engineer, you are trained to be a plumbing and heating engineer. What you're not trained to be is a businessman. It's took me years, and in fact, it's only probably the last 5 years it's clicked. And I've been in it since I was 15. So what am I now, 47? So it's quite a long, well, I'm 46, I'm not 47 for a couple of weeks. In fact, 2 days actually. So ultimately, the point I'm trying to make is that is there anybody out there that's thinking, how am I going to do this? There is things that you can watch and learn, like listen to people like me. I'm not saying I'm a guru or anything like that, but I have got a lot of experience in the industry. So pain point one is, how do you come from a one-man band to a company? That's a big pain point. How do you do it? Persistency, show up, start to build a team. It's easier said than done. But anybody that's at that point now that's thinking, I need an apprentice, as soon as you, or any point you think you need a hand, you need to do it. Just do it, instantly do it, done. Pain point two, how do I get my customers, how do I make sure they stay? Customer service is really, really important, really, really important. So ultimately, you've got to do the job, tidy up, and sometimes at the end of the day, you're exhausted, so you're trying to be, polite. You've just got to push through that. And also, you've got to make sure that everybody that's working with you is pushing through that and trying not to show that. I could go on and on and on with these pain points, but these are my particular pain points. So pain point 3 for me was, then I was going out to do jobs and I was getting a call, can you come now? Well, I can be there tomorrow. That's not good enough. That's awful, because ultimately you're now being gun to your head. You either come or you're not going to get this job. You need to get that job because you need that money, you need that consistency. So you're going out to that. That's very difficult to say no. I say no now because majority of our customers understand and they'll wait, but I've now got a big team, so it's a lot easier for me to say, and I've forgot some of these pain points as well. I remember them, but I've still got pain points to current day. So that's another issue. Getting premises, that's difficult because how do you afford it? Pain points, they're just full of them everywhere. So what I'm trying to say is, anybody that's trying to do it now, you've got to come up with your own method. You've got to start looking what other people do. Copy the big boys. Have a look what the big boys are doing. Bigger than me, our size. A lot of companies my size are doing what the big boys are doing. We've just not got the infrastructure to do what they do. But ultimately, we're all doing the same. All companies, we've all got the same. I can look at any plumbing company doing $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $4 million, $5 million, whatever it is, and know exactly what's going on in that business because I've been doing it long enough and running £1 million plumbing company, which has been a massive challenge. In fact, it's probably one of the hardest industries to run. Anybody that you're using a service and a product is different. If you're doing like Amazon, from selling a product, sending it away, all you've got to do is send it back and swap it. We've got to send an engineer to swap it and put and correct and then go back, and we don't get paid for that. So it's different. Everything's so different. So I think how I want to wrap this up with you guys is basically, anybody that's in a situation where they think it's impossible, you need to go and have a look at what you're doing. Just stand back, sit back and think, what am I doing here? Am I doing too many products? Am I doing too many things? And more than likely you are, but you're terrified, absolutely terrified of not taking everything on because you've got the ability to do everything. But unfortunately, you haven't got the manpower to do everything. So then you start becoming unreliable to customers, and customers start thinking he's this, that, and the other. They just don't. In fact, they don't care, to be quite frank, about how you're feeling, because it's all about them. And a lot of the stuff that they're coming to you, you've got to remember, is they're not going buying a Gucci bag. They're going to buy a boiler or something they don't want to spend money on. It's like a pain point for them. We're getting on the pain point. So you've got to convince them that this is a great idea. It's brilliant. It's fantastic. It was, efficiency, etc. So there's lots of things that you can do to make the positivities to the customer, to yourself, to make yourself feel better about selling the products, is doing that. One of the biggest pain points for me again, and I'm rambling on a little bit, jumping about because my mind's kind of all over show all the time, was basically, what brand or product do I use? So I just pick the best, just go with the best brand, pick the best, start fitting loads of the boilers, get in with them, job done. And do you know what? It's worked. We've got a showroom in Horwich. It's all Worcester Bosch products. And now a lot of engineers won't agree with me on that, but Worcester Bosch do offer guarantees. The backup's amazing and they've been great with us. So I've never had a problem. So that eradicated me fitting all different boilers. Thankfully now Worcester have bought a cheap boiler out so we can now compete again in the market, because again that was a pain point. These Worcester boilers are a fortune. I can go and get this boiler in Alpha that's a lot cheaper. Yes, it is a lot cheaper. Alpha's a good boiler. I'm not saying it's not, but it's not a Worcester. And if you speak to anybody in the industry, they're not. But you do pay for what you get, because with them you get a warranty. With Bosch you get a guarantee. So there is a difference again. So all these things that all the engineers are having to deal with day in, day out, I just wish sometimes when the customer rings up, if they could just give them a little bit of a break, because ultimately they are flat out. We'll be poorly. Another pain point. Today we can't make it. Why? Because unfortunately we've got an issue with one of the engineers. Send someone else. Well, we can't send them because that means I'm pulling off a job. Don't care, not my problem, your problem. So you've just got to be so diplomatic, because we're dealing with about 120 jobs a week, and ultimately that's a lot of stress. We only need one person off sick. With the amount of team we've probably got someone off every week with holidays and sickness and various other things, children, and there's so many things involved in this industry. And I'm not saying it's not involved in every other industry, because it is. The difference is in our industry, if you're working in an office, someone's off, you can cover for the office. You cannot cover for an engineer. If an engineer rings in sick and doesn't turn up, that boiler's not getting fixed. That issue is not getting fixed, because every van that you've got is another part of your business. That van is like a shop. That van's a shop, that van's a shop, that van's a shop. If you close that shop and them customers can't come into it, you're losing revenue and you're getting complaints. So that is another extremely painful. But how I've got over all these is get my team to start understanding, spend the time when we make a mistake, listen to recordings on phones, record, the phone calls. We make sure that everybody is on the same page. So the team know, right, we've messed up on this particular job, let's have a meeting about it. I'll go on to training later on, but ultimately I'm still learning, and I've learned a lot and I've got a lot of experience, and I've then got to put that replication into my team to stop all these pain points before they come to me. There's got to be levels in the industry in the business where that then comes to me, and they've done as much as they possibly can to stop this from happening before it comes to me, because I used to deal with a lot more than I do now, and that was because it was easy to just give it me, I can't be bothered, and push your team away, and that would frustrate the team. Hence, I changed everything. Having been poorly the year before, and I've had to change my whole life, and it's probably a good thing that's happened. It's a bad thing, but it's a good thing, because now it's made me realise that it's so important to get your team right. So if you're now at the point where you're a one-man band, that's cool. And if you're happy being at that level, that's cool. I'm not saying this is for everybody, but if you're frustrated and you're going through these points, the only best bit of advice I can do is persistency. Start to have a look at it and at least spend a day, if it's a Saturday or Sunday, or a couple of hours in the morning, away from everything, just concentrating, how can I make this better? Write them all down. I used to wake up in the night, put a diary at the side of me, just write it down. So when I wake up in the morning, I can see it and deal with it. That was another pain point, because you'd wake up in the night thinking, I forgot this, I forgot that, where am I going with this, where am I going with that? Write it down. Now, it's not the same as putting it in your notes on your phone, I believe. I think if you write it down, it gets out of your head, it clears it, and then you've got it when you wake up in the morning. So like I said, I could talk all day about these pain points. So I'm just going to start wrapping it up now, because ultimately, is there an answer to all this? Yes, there is. Persistency. You've got to show up. It's like showering. You get a shower every day. If you think you're going to smell beautiful for a week but not shower, you're not going to you're going to stink. So every day you've got to have that attitude. You've got to keep showing up and coming up with methods, process, operations. So you'll get to 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, £500,000, £1 million. And I'm pretty sure from my level to some of the companies, one of the companies that I want to get on, where I think he's doing 18 million, his pain points will be still the same, but on a bigger scale. So I'd like to just put it out there that there's heating engineers out there that are worrying about certain things, but we're all in the same game. We're all in the same boat. And to be honest with you, if you just reach out to me, I'll do my best to get back to you. It's absolutely fine. Most of the people, if you want it, you'll get it, and keep persistent, guys. Now we're going to talk about sales and marketing. So when I first started up, I used to spend probably, Butler even use £100 a week, not even that. I couldn't even tell you because it's back to 1997, so it might have been £50 a week. I used to do local advertisement drops, etc., and I didn't realise that by spending £50 a week, I ain't going to get work. Now, I think a lot of people will get 10,000 leaflets delivered to properties and think they're going to get loads of work. But the reality of that is you probably only get about 5 jobs from 10,000 leaflets. And some of the quality of them jobs are going to be horrendous. So you might spot lucky, or you might, get something that's going to really, really work for you. So sometimes you might pot lucky, but majority of the time you're not. So if you're putting, say, 10,000 leaflets out, that costs you 500 quid, and you're a small one-man band, that's a lot of money for you to get back. So it's very difficult. So I think a lot of this stuff, what you can use now, which is free, is social media. Now, I'm not saying Facebook is going to get you loads, but it will get you brand awareness and it will get you there. I think if I was a small business now, I would be making my own ads and putting them out there using software like Canva. Very, very good piece of software, and just putting stuff on there, be doing shorts and filming jobs, anything I could put out there to tell people. Because when you're first starting up, people are only going to come to you because, one, you're good, but the main reason, in my opinion, is because you're cheap. So how can you be like really good, cheap, and then afford to market? So what I did back in the day is I basically started to say I earned £100, I put £50 away. So I would literally put as much back into marketing as what I was earning. So I was kind of like feeding the business for quite some time. So we started off with the advertisement spends I'm talking about, where when we ended up doing probably about £100,000 a year with Thompson's local Yellow Pages, local rag mags, etc. We just dominated the whole area. We just thought, right, what we're going to do is just get loads of ads. Now, how do we get to that? By that simple system of saving. Now, I was quite fortunate because I still live with parents. So when I set my company, I was still with parents. I didn't have massive overheads. Depending on where you are at life, you still need to make money. And I do feel for those guys, but you have to put money into marketing. We spend 10% of our turnover. We're spending roughly about between £5,000 and £8,000 a month on marketing. It's in various different platforms. We do put on Facebook. We do go on to Google. We do Google My Business. There's so much out there. We do local rag mags, which are still effective. We do local sponsorship. We do roundabouts. We do local football teams, kids, loads of stuff around the local area to get our name out there. It's took years and years and years. Majority of the time when we turn up, they say, oh, I recognise you, Van, or we know who you are, because we've been around that long. But that's took years and years. Now, I have seen some companies jump this gap rapid. I know they've done it is the power of social media, but they've been committed and they've been not shy, because ultimately the sales and marketing is absolutely 100% what you need to get right. Because if you're not getting your sales and marketing right, you've got to market to get the sales. And when you go out to do the sales, you've got to sell yourself. So it's no good turning up at 6 o'clock at night when you're knackered and you've done a 12-hour shift and you're stinking of flux and solder and you're walking into house. And, I've been there and the customer's cooking the tea and you're like, oh my God, how hungry am I? And then they're asking you technical questions and they can see straight through you the fact that you don't want to be there. So what I decided to do is basically turn up to the job smarter, allow myself time for quoting. You could possibly just do a day, which is difficult again, because if you just allow a day to do it, you might have emergencies where it's a boiler. Now, they just come in. You just got to go. It's that simple. Like, there's no method for that, or you get a sales team, or you get someone else to help you with the sales, which I do. So ultimately, if we have to go out to do a quote, there's no way I would turn up, in all my rag, plumbing clothes, looking scruffy, smelling of, flux, solder. I basically want that customer to see an impression of me, that we're a brand, that we care about the property, that we go in nice and neat. So the sales is important. If you've not done any sales training, perhaps I would recommend you go and do some, because ultimately that's something that a lot of plumbers miss out on sales. Now, I do appreciate that it's not for everybody this, but I would probably estimate out of 100 companies that try and do this, 10 might do it and succeed. Now, that's fine, that's great, that's not a problem, because ultimately they, who are the one-man bands, they're cool. They're happy doing what they're doing. They don't want the stress. They don't want it. They're happy going home to the family, which is brilliant. That's, that's perfect. But someone like me is driven by success and is driven by leaving a legacy, a footprint, and something that I can be really proud of. Now, you could say that I've got a family and I'm really proud of that. I don't have children. I don't have any of that, and that's probably because I've got a business, which is my baby. So that comes first. But I suppose over the last couple of years, I've realised family comes first. Your personal health comes first, and all this sales and marketing becomes extremely stressful when you're not getting results. Could I tell you the magic number? I'd be a multi-millionaire. If I could work out sales and marketing and sell it to you now, I wouldn't be sat here. I'd be sat on a yacht somewhere. So anybody that's doing, you've got to try bits of everything. It's all about testing. Now, people talk about testing. What do you mean by testing? Well, every time you spend £1,000 on marketing, it doesn't work. You'll never do that again. It's awful, isn't it? You've got to lose that money. Google love it. Google love changing the algorithm, sort of Facebook and sort of Instagram. Once you start cracking it and getting your head around it, they just flip it and change it. So ultimately, you've got to just be on the ball. Do a strategy plan. What would I do if I'm going looking for, say, a different product? So if I was getting a mobile, what would I do? I'd go to the big boys. Would I go to a backstreet shop? Yeah, I would if I had a lower budget. But it depends on what customers you're trying to attract. Are you trying to attract high-end? Because if you're trying to attract high-end, they want somebody that's got a showroom. They want somebody that's got, a nice uniforms, a nice van, loads of reviews, all them sort of things. Now, I'll touch on that quickly. Reviews are really, really, really important. We've got loads of reviews, but admittedly, we got a bit slack with them. So, like, for instance, we've had loads on Trustpilot, loads on Facebook, loads on, what's the other one? Check a Trade, Which Trusted Trader. We neglected Google. Now, although Google are not vetted, most people do go on Google now. So you've got to get your Google up. Google's difficult because you've got to have a Google account. But again, I mentioned in the last episode, it's like showering. You've got to persistent and keep doing it. I tell our team every day, you need to do this, this, this. And they're great and they're doing it. And then we reward, all our team gets something at the end of it. We don't expect them to, do it. They're doing the job that's, difficult enough. We don't expect them to do it for nothing. So we do little things like get them a toolkit, or this time we're going to take everyone out because they've been that efficient at getting reviews and do what they should do. They're all neck and neck. So I thought, well, this is a bit unfair because they're all putting the same effort in. So I spoke to the team and said, what do you want to do? Now, all these little things help your sales and marketing, and it's changing and it's growing and everything's getting so different. So my top tip is, sit down and have a think about where your market's coming from. Sit down, what do you want? Sit down and what products you want to sell. Because if you market yourself out in the market for everything, we're not Tesco's. It's impossible. We need to structure what do we make the most money on, what do we want to do. And then if we're slack, then do the smaller jobs. But if you want to move on, if you want to do boilers, market boilers. If you want to do service, maintenance, repair, boilers, heating and cooling, market that. If you want to do bathrooms, market bathrooms. Pick something, stick to it, and expand on it. So once you've cracked it in any of these industries, you can add verticals with the team you've already got. So if you've got a team of 10 or 13 or 15, 20, whatever it is, you can add verticals to it. So basically, when you're in situations where there's products out there that you couldn't have fitted, you can fit because you've got the team and you can do that. It's very, very easy to flip this business model into other business models. So my top tip is basically sit down, have a think about it, go through what you want to do, choose your market, what you want to do, what product you want to sell, and then go for it. Where would I put my first £500 into? I would probably say I would get a marketeer and probably try to do some sponsor stuff on Facebook and Google. It's not really going to get you much, but you've got to start somewhere. You've then got to start looking at what everybody else is doing because everybody's copying everybody. We're all copying each other. So start looking at people like us. How are they doing it? What are they doing different? Because that's what we do. We look at everybody else and we respect the competition, because if there's no competition, you need to realise that you'd all become dormant, including myself. I did come dormant, to be honest with you. We've got some fantastic companies around us, really exciting companies, and I look at them and they look at me, and it basically keeps us all going. So competition is healthy, and it's important to realise this. So when your sales and marketing is going down, blame yourselves. Just say, why is it? Just stop going, oh, it's this, it's that. And bear in mind, the market is massively down at the minute on boilers. We're up. We're 25 up. And that's because we've been doing more marketing. Although the actual cost per acquisition's gone up, we're still making a profit. Although it be very little, but at least we're making a profit. We're not making a loss, and we're still continuing, because we realise that the most important thing in a company is your staff has got to be happy. I know that everybody knows that. I hate calling them staff. I prefer to call them team members. But you've got to spend money on marketing and sales, just like anything. You've got to keep doing it and testing. And the minute you think you've got too much work and you stop doing this, you're going to have a problem. Because even when you're busy, you still need to be marketing. When you're slack, you need to market even more, which if you're busy, you can save that money up, can't you? And just don't take your foot off the gas. Keep going, get back on the horse. Keep going, keep going, keep going. I'd like to wrap it up to say to everybody, good luck with the sales and marketing. If you need any tips, again, you can get in contact with me. I think personally, nobody really knows the answer to sales and marketing, but there's some tips there. Is choose your product, narrow it down if it's getting too hectic, have a look at where the work's coming from, have a look at what the big boys are doing, have a look at what the one-man bands are doing, have a look at what everybody's doing, and just start Googling and find out what they're doing. finding out what's going on, And again, with your sales, if you're unsure about how to sell something, get a company in, get them through your door, your friend's door, see what they're doing. How the hell are they getting all this work? See what the process is, how they get the customer to sign, or they selling the house or closing the house, whatever you want to call it. Just start reaching out to people that are in the industry, because at the end of the day, there's a big thing what I really believe in. If I can do it, if Charlie Mullins can do it, if them sorts of people can do it, and I'm not putting myself on level with Charlie Mullins, I'm just using him as an example, but anybody can do it. If you're around the right mindset and you put the effort in, you'll do it. Talk about now, there's a way of getting and onboarding engineers. Also, there is office staff. I'm going to talk particularly about onboarding engineers. So what's the biggest thing that engineers want? First thing I believe that engineers want is money. The most important thing, if you're a good engineer, you want to get paid good money. You also want a lovely van. You also want a fuel card. You want all these things, but again, if you're getting an engineer, you've got to pay the going rates. If you pay cheap, you pay twice. So you've got to do your research on qualified engineers to see what's coming into your company. Now, there's various ways you can do this. So I think you've got a difference in the questions you can ask. There's lots of questions out there, but you can ask them questions like, how long have you been doing it? What's your experience? What have you worked on? Who have you worked for? How many boilers do you fit? Because there's a big difference between somebody who's fitting 10 boilers or 150 boilers a year, etc. You've got to be wary how many breakdowns can you do in a day? How much service can you do in a day? So them are the key questions you need to ask these qualified engineers. Now, also as well, I would definitely say get references from previous employers, because I've fallen into that trap where I've not took references and took people on because I've took the word of mouth because there was great bullshitters, but ultimately it's really cost me money that in the long run. So I would say make sure when you're getting engineers in, ask them these questions. Now, there's a big difference between apprentice and engineers. Now, I've always taken on apprentices, so we've had apprentices through the company. Some of them have made it, some of them have not. I would say it's an equal split who've made it and an equal split who's not made it. But ultimately, the apprentices, if after 2 years they're not getting it, they've got a problem. Now, some companies out there would say, no, mate, you're totally wrong. If after the first 6 months they're not getting it. No, what you got to realise that these are children. Now, any apprentices out there, don't take that derogatory at all. But you're 16-year-old, you come in. Sometimes you might be like, it's not for me. My parents have pushed me into it. There might be various different reasons why you're in the trade. Now, you'll be very lucky if you get somebody that really is interested in it and comes into it like I was. I was a bit of a geek, to be fair. But ultimately, if you do, our best engineer now clicked about year 2, maybe year 3, he clicked, and he's our best engineer. So when people say, oh, well, you've got, you don't have to give them that time, I disagree with that, because some of the best engineers I've got, they took a while to click. They could do the job, but they was too busy, weekends, going out, and, that's what young people do. It's great if you get someone that doesn't, but in 2024, I'll challenge you to find that. So, yeah, work with the apprentices, praise them. Don't go mad at them all the time, because we know that they mess up quite a lot. They make silly mistakes. They cost us money. I mean, some of our apprentices have dropped ceilings, damaged carpets, smashed windscreens on cars because when they've been coring, they've not checked what's below it. There's so it can go on and on and on. But the problem, what I used to do is I used to focus on the negs and never on the positives, and there were loads of positives. So now, when we have our monthly meeting, we'll clear the negs out first, and we'll always leave on a positive. So apprentices versus qualified engineers, what would I do? I think now we've got some apprentices that have now just qualified. I think now for the next stage for us, for our next engineer, I'm going to look for someone who's qualified, because ultimately we're at a time of the company's growing. Have we got time to train an apprentice? We will have if we get another engineer and we can put him with them. So it depends on what you want to do. If you're a smaller company and you're growing and you're a one-man band, I'd recommend an apprentice. If you're a successful company and you're already doing £1 million and you want to go further, maybe look at getting the best engineer. Now, how do you get the best engineer? You've got to offer packages, haven't you? You've got to offer better than anybody else in that market's offering. So ultimately, you've got to think about that, what you're going to offer. And also, you've got to make it attractive for people who come to your company to look, wow, look what he's doing, look what he's putting into training, look at his offices, look at his vans. I really want to work for this guy. His uniforms are all smart. If they get damaged, they give us new ones. There's no can I have? It's all there. Now, I must admit, I've slacked on uniforms. We use a company that get them in, and they're very delayed. So what we're doing now is we're pre-ordering and just keeping a box so that they can keep changing the uniforms, because ultimately the representation of the company is the first impression the customer sees, so you've got to look good. So ultimately, I'm looking for a qualified engineer at the minute. We're always looking, to be fair. We're always going to be recruiting, because ultimately we're going to get to a level. I need to double capacity. I need to get to a point where we're doubling capacity, not for more money for me, but for more freedom and more time to myself. I'm pretty much buying my time. That's why I think we'll go down the engineer route, because I know this sounds extremely selfish, but I don't know if I've got enough time to train apprentices. If we generically get one on because we need one to go with an engineer, of course we'll do that. That's a definite, and it's a must. So depending on where you're at, apprentices are very good, and I do think we need to invest in the future. I don't think the government do enough. I personally think they should be giving money towards employers, because at the end of the day, you're paying them every day for a day off a week. You're paying them a day off every single week to go to college. You get a grant roughly of about 1,500 quid. You're lucky if that's going to cost you damages or cover your damages. So ultimately, I think the government should do more. They're complaining about, oh, there's not enough tradesmen. They're doing nothing really about it. They're not coming to employers saying, right, if you take this apprentice on, what we will do, we'll put 30% towards the wage till year 4 or whatever it is, the apprenticeship. That's what they should be doing. Or give them a tax relief because they're in training. Because ultimately, that's where the problem is, because people don't want to come into our industry. So going back to qualified engineers versus apprentices, I think there's a bit of a level on both sides. I've done both, but at the minute we'll probably go qualified engineer, because I've just not got the time, because I need to grow quicker. The apprentices now that we've got have just qualified. They've still got a couple of years to go out and learn and get in the real world, but ultimately I'm going to go with qualified engineers. I'm sorry if everybody ever keep dropping my eyes and you're not getting me there, but I apologise for that. But I've got a big screen in front of me that I can see of myself, and I keep looking at it. So I get distracted. So if you wonder why my eyes are dropping, now you know why. Honesty and transparency is the best policy. So yeah, what would I do? I've said it 3 times, 4 times maybe. At the minute, qualified. But don't let that put you off bringing on apprentices, because I do believe apprentices bring so much to the table. It's just at this time we need to grow, and the apprentices won't do it quick enough. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there now. Just give us some feedback. Tell me what you thought. Tell me your experiences. Tell me what you've been. And everybody, yeah, that's great. So now I'm going to talk about systems, processes, and operations. So basically, in every company, you need a system, a process, and an operation. Now, the reason for that is you need something that you can teach to team members, and you need to be basically looking at something that's easily taught, nothing complicated that you can replicate. So we use systems, process, and operations. So to run the company, we use a system called Commusoft. Commusoft's a great system. It runs all the operations in the company. Now, Wes, he takes care of all our operations, so his job is to make sure all that's going nice and smoothly. And then obviously we have other systems and processes and operations. So the other system that we use for financial is a package called Zero, which integrates with everything that we have. So the accountant can see everything live. We can get weekly updates of our account, so we know exactly how much we're spending, what we need to do, and we can take action on it. The other system that we use is Dext, which we then, every invoice that we have or gets created, we get the merchants to email that across. That sits nice and neatly in our Zero. The accountant then can look at it, and he can see when I'm overspending, what I'm doing. It's absolutely brilliant. It's a game changer. So that Zero and Dex, them as a package, have been a game changer for us. I never realised how important it was to know your numbers. I went on a mentorship, and I was kind of not realising my numbers, because when you're turning over £1 million, you can soon get quickly into debt without even knowing it. And I've done it. So that's very, very important. We also use different processes for leads. Now, we do use a system. It's Go Eye Level. So basically, that does all our leads that come in from one area. So if we get a lead, it all pinpoints to one area where the team can go on and have a look. We are looking currently at going over to HubSpot, because that's a great product as well. I've had a couple of meetings with them. I really like their product. because it allows you to have one system where all your leads come into, and you can work from that, and it's very teachable to everybody. So you can teach Commusoft how to use that system. The engineers can be taught how to do it. It roughly takes about 6 weeks, I think, for everyone to get the full head round it, because the engineer side is different than the office side, so probably 3 weeks each, if that makes any sense. But if you want to get the knowledge what we've got, it takes quite a bit longer than that on Commusoft. We also have trackers on the vans. Now, we have trackers on the vans not because we're trying to track the lads and see what they're up to. We want to make their journey easier in the day. So if we know that an engineer is close, we can go on the trackers and ping that job to him because he's closer. It just really helps. So the trackers are very important as well. We also have a phone system. The phone system is amazing because it just allows us to record the calls, the training. When we put them on hold, they can listen to our products, what we've got going on. It's very easy to do a conference call, push things forward, divert it out of hours. It's, everybody should have a phone system. When you get to a level, and I would say you're doing around about £300,000, you need to start even if you're doing £50,000 and you get used to these systems, process and operations on your own and you learn it. Some people, it's too much work, it's too much hard work. Yes, it is, of course it is. Everything's hard work. But once you put these and implement, it's crazy how quickly that they help you. So the systems, process and operations that I mentioned, we use them on the daily. We also do internal stuff with merchants, and we use a system called Trello, which is a bit like a whiteboard. So you can put stuff on there so that the merchants can go out and see what you're doing. So from an office, you can take pictures, add it to it from site, send it to them. They can send you a price back. Everybody in the office can see it. It's similar to WhatsApp, but does a hell of a lot more. So that's Trello. And it's free unless you go onto the Pro. The other stuff that we use as well is Canva. So if we want to do any design, we do outsource a lot of our social media and stuff, but we do our own stuff. So we use Canva. These are all great little tools that you can have. The free version is okay, but we get the professional one, the paid one. But ultimately, these systems, process and operation, if you look at all the big boys and all the medium-sized companies and the smaller businesses that have got 10 to 20 staff, they're all using these systems, process and operations. And the reason we're doing it is because it's teachable. So, my aim is to make myself redundant in each role as quickly as possible. I've been saying that for 20 odd years, but ultimately that's my game. So it's important that you get your systems, process and operations. Now, the processes that we use are basically, we have like specifics. So we'll come in the morning and we have a process where we'll speak to the team, have a meeting, make sure everyone's okay. Are you okay? Get that out there, get them out the door, get the lads out the door. But we have a process so that we know wherever. I ring everybody up pretty much every night to see how the day's been. And I would class that as a process because it's in my process. How's your day gone? How have you been? Have you had a bad day, a good day? What are you up to? Communication in the whole of this is very important to talk to your team. And as well, it gets lonely being a director at the top and not talking to your team, because ultimately you're the one who's got to drive everything. You've got massive responsibilities on your shoulders, which people are not aware of. The systems, the process and operations that you've put in place will make your life easier. So I've decided to, be big on this. Some of the girls will say to us, bloody hell, mate, you're buying another, you can't do that, it's costing too much money. And I'll explain to them, well, I get it's money, but it's investment. And the reason is I'm buying back my time. Because if I can put a system, a process, and operation in that I don't have to get involved in, that's fantastic. So now the girls deal with a lot of the quoting, which they couldn't have done without us putting systems in place. To when does Mick need to get involved? Usually I only get involved after Wes can't, so after Gaz can't. So anything that these lads can't answer, then it'll come through to me. And I'm a big believer, you've got to step back and allow your team to use these system, processes, and operations that you've put in place. Don't put them in place and then don't use them. Because a lot of people do, they'll go and put all these systems in place and then just go back to how they were. Because you've got to keep doing it. I keep mentioning about the showering every day to keep clean. It's the same thing. You've got to keep your systems, your process and operations moving. And if you get a bottleneck, add that into the processes, systems and operations. It is pretty simple and it's transferable through any business. Any successful business out there that you see has got these in place and they're so important. So again, just to touch on that, if I can remember them all, we've got Commusoft that does operations. That's a fantastic package. It's expensive, but it's really, really good. We've got Xero combined with Dext. Very good for your financials, where you know you're up to. Make sure you get an accountant that understands that package when you sign up to an accountant, because that's important as well. We've also got High Level at the minute, which we may be going over to HubSpot. Very good packages that control all your leads, so you know where they backlink everything. You've got to do that. We've also got Trello for internal communication with merchants and ourselves. We've also got trackers on the vans. We've also got a phone system. There will be stuff that I've missed out here that will come back to me because we have got more than what I'm saying, because we keep trying various different ones, because I don't think you're ever happy with it, because it's evolving every day, especially social media. We're looking at systems like we've now currently got an AI chatbot, which is basically talking back to customers. It's annoying a lot of customers because it never shuts up and it doesn't know when to shut up. So ultimately, but at least we've got something when we're asleep in bed that somebody's talking and answering. Surprised how many people get through to us in the morning and ask us questions, etc. And she's pretty good. She's called Jessica. She's pretty good at what she's doing, but she's still learning. So be patient, any of our customers that are seeing that at the moment. So I'm going to wrap it up pretty quick now. I hope that that's been very helpful for you, the system, process and operations. And you'll find most of the companies that are out there are using these systems or they've designed their own. So now I'm going to talk about work culture. So work culture is extremely important in any organization. What we need to be doing in our organisation is looking at our team, because without our team, unfortunately, we don't have a business. So I would say the culture comes from the top, which is me. So how do I instill this culture into people without upsetting them? It's difficult. It's really difficult. So ultimately, when you're onboarding somebody, just make sure that you have a few fundamentals in place of your work culture. That at M&R, we say we're the best in Bolton. So if you're going to do that, you've got to then live up to your reputation. We don't want people in scruffy vans, McDonald's all over the front seats, etc. We wanted them to keep the vans nice and tidy and washed. This is something that is part of work culture. So if you can get everybody doing that in your company, they're representing you, fantastic. You also want to realise that the biggest mistake that people put is customers first. Now, I'm not saying that's not mega important, because it really is. But if you're putting your customers first and you're not putting your team first, you need to treat your team like you treat your customers, because without your team, you haven't got anything. So I would recommend having regular meetings and appraisals if you want to, depending on how far you want to go. But in the meetings, I used to just talk about neg. Now I talk about neg, positive, and always leave on a positive note, because the team are aware of the stuff, what's gone wrong. So we don't need to ram it down the throat every 10 minutes. We need to highlight it. What can we do about it? But running a business, there's always going to be something every day, a challenge, because you've got to realize, if you've got a business, you've got to have work culture that is all from the same hymn book. You can't have somebody doing something differently, because it's just going to upset the whole team. I'm sure you've all heard about the expression about a bad egg or a bad apple, a bad apple in a basket. What's the first thing you've got to do? You've got to deal with it and remove it, or repair it somehow. But ultimately, you've got to take action so that your work culture doesn't change. So our work culture is customer service. We've got to offer the best customer services. We've got to be tidy. We've got to be clean. We've got to basically try to turn up earlier. Turn up early is always better than turn up late. I know that can't be avoided, because ultimately traffic and things in 2024 that are going on. But ultimately, we need to be realising that that's important. If you say to a customer, you've got to get there, don't let everybody just slack off like, oh, they'll be because some customers, they can be very difficult, and you can then get into a culture where you're answering the phone because you've got difficult customers. And I've been guilty of this. You're treating them all the same. So when someone's got a genuine problem, they'll come and you'll think, oh, no, you're trying it on because the last person did. Because ultimately, people will do this. They'll put you under pressure. But just keep calm, take a breath, and realise this isn't personal. This is just business. Very hard thing to do, because we've all got emotions. I'm pretty urged you've been told, don't bring your problems to work. But unfortunately, that's not quite true. We've got to establish those problems, live with them problems, and move on. But you've got to make sure that everybody in that culture is from the same. So if you notice one member of your team's down, and the lads do, or the girls do, the culture should be, something's wrong with Mick at the minute. Let's have a chat with him. You don't think you need to have a chat with Mick if you've noticed something with him? Because once you've got that culture of care in your business, that's brilliant. But one thing I would say as well is it's great as well, because then they spot me having issues. They can see when I'm ready for burnout, when I'm kicking off over something that's totally irrelevant, what is the really underlying problem that's making me feel that way and talk the way I'm talking. So again, going back to work culture, you need to turn it into more like a caring environment with rules. Suppose a bit like when you're bringing your children up, really. They've got rules, they get the love, they get what they want, and ultimately everything works smoothly. Now, try to keep that culture up. It's very difficult, but you have to do it. Because if you don't do it, you will never succeed. I mean, there's got to be situations in businesses. I always wonder, like, how do you get from 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 100, 100 to 150, 250, and then up to, say, 8,000. How is that even possible? That's down to the communication and work culture in that company, how they've done it, how they've actually got that process in, systems again and operations, how they have managed to get that work culture. If you look at the big boys, there's out there where they have like every month they have like an award to the best salesman, the best person that's done cold calling, whatever it may be. We have the same thing to keep the culture up. With the lads get the reviews and they do really well. We have so much good responses out of doing this, doing the toolkits for them. We decided, right, sack that. What we're going to do is take them out for food and have a right good drink, maybe on a Friday or something when we're not working. In the summer when it's a bit slacker, it's nice to have a work stew, but isn't it nice to have two work stews and appreciate, your work colleagues and get to know each other on a personal level? People say you shouldn't do that, but I do believe as a director, it's good to do it every now and again. But ultimately, work culture is probably one of the biggest, most important things that you can be doing in a business. You've got to have a happy team. It's a bit like a happy wife. They say, happy team, happy Mick. It's that simple. If I'm a bad leader, which I've been in the past, and I hope I'm getting better at it, I can quickly lose these work culture ethics that I've put in place. So ultimately, just have a think about when you're going to be speaking to your team, what you're going to be saying to them. If you need to say something that you feel that's a little bit embarrassing, make sure you pull them to one side. Don't say it in front of the whole team, mate, the mistakes I've made, because it's not nice. Because you don't realise that you're upsetting someone's feeling. It never comes back to you through that person. It'll come back from another work member that will tell you, and you'll think, you know what, I shouldn't have said that. So just be mindful what you're saying to people, because you don't know what day they've had as well. It's not all about the owner, it's also about the team. So I'd like to leave it there with you all, guys, and see what you think about what I've said. If you can just let me know if you have any of these problems with culture and work culture, and if I can give you any advice, I will. And if you can give me any advice, I welcome it. Thank you very much. So some of the problems is keeping busy in the summer. So how have we come up with an idea to make sure we're busy in the summer? So in 2011, I realised that we need to build. This is slightly not related to why we do it, but I'll explain it a little bit more now. So in 2011 time, we went dead. The recession was hitting hard. People say we was out of it, but around 2010, 2011 was a very, very bad time for M&R. So we set up MR Home Care. So MR Home Care was our little golden nugget. Nobody really knew about it. I never advertised it. I didn't really tell anybody. So we would be signing people up into care plans because I wanted something that would keep us recession proof. And I've said that from the very, very start of that recession, because when I went through it, I lost a hell of a lot of money. So we started to do service plans, etc. But what we did with those service plans, we made sure, because it was over 12 months, that we did, like British Gas do, we did all the servicing in the summer. And we've got thousands on our books that we do servicing. So the service engineers throughout the summer are always busy. There is no issue with that. And they carry, just as the installation lads do, they all play the important bits. They carry each other sometimes when we're not as busy on one project or on the other. So that's what we did. We also looked at how could we get, bigger things like universities and stuff like that, which we do. We have got a couple, not big, not massive amounts, but again, we try to focus on them through summer. We then introduced like power flushing, where we could go out and we could power flush central heating systems in the summer, prepare your system ready for winter. And we encourage people also to get boilers done in the summer, because they will get a discount, and that keeps us busy. We are 25 boilers up this year on the fact that the market's down. I think it's 27%? I couldn't tell you the exact figures, but it's definitely down. So we're up. So we've done pretty well in May. We've had a good May. It's been, it's been steady. So these months now are critical, because if you're banking, I don't know, 120 grand of say net profit out of your £1 million, or 100 grand or whatever it is, you need to look at the erosion points. So like if you're busy throughout the 8 months a year and then slack, which we have been, we're a lot better now because we're getting onto it and we're nailing it a lot better. Ultimately, you've got to look at how can we do it. So we got into air conditioning. We subcontract that out at the minute because we've not got enough demand for it. However, the lads are all booked in, ready to go and do the courses. They can actually fit the air conditioning, to be fair, but they need their F-gas, and we can't do that. It's a bit like gas safe. So currently, we're subcontracting it, because I certainly don't want to go out fitting it. I will do the course, but I've just not got the time to do it. The lads really want to do it because they enjoy doing installations and things like that. Now, the other things we thought is, what other things can we do in the summer? So we looked at underfloor heating, bigger projects. So we did a huge one last summer. We did a plant room as well. So we look at this time of year, we'll contact businesses that we've done work for. We'll put everything off. So we'll go out and we'll get a limp top over the winter, and then we'll schedule something in for the summer. If it's like a full TRV replacement in a doctor's surgery that's got 50 of them, we've just priced one of those up. I know it's only 3 days work, I understand that, but ultimately you've got to look at all these situations. How can we keep busy in the summer? Now, there's a couple of ways you can do it, is what I've just mentioned. Now, the costs you can put down. So our lads, they will be paid by the hour. So in the winter, they absolutely smash it. And in the summer, they can have the time off, so I don't pay them if they're not working. They're out. In fact, they brought that to the table. I never mentioned that. I just thought, well, yeah, that's a good idea. And when we work it out, you'll not believe this, but it's not much out difference. They do end up with a little bit more money, but it gives them more of freedom. So through the winter, it's miserable, so they don't mind working. Through the summer, they can have better days. However, this summer, looking at this month's, it's May, looking at this month's payroll today that's just gone out, the lads have been busy, because I can tell by the wage slips and what the hours they've done. I've had a look over them. So whatever we're doing is working. So we're trying to make sure that we don't have a dip. Another tip is, if you've got to go cheap in the summer on some of the installations, it's better to lose £100 on a job than lose everything and got your costs for your company for that van, which might be £400. So you've got to look at things like that. How can I see? A lot of the companies are competitive at a loss because they know they'd rather lose £100 than lose £600 that day just to keep the lads in work, because the time of the heyday is seasonal for us. Now, air conditioning is kicking off. It's still at the early stages and days. There's a lot of companies out there, air conditioning engineers particular, not charging enough because they're used to getting 300 quid on a job on a site. They're putting 300 quid on top of it. They're not thinking like a business, so they're doing it way too cheap, because ultimately they can consistently do that, but they're never going to get any bigger and they're only going to make a wage. So we advise people to have a look at the prices. And again, if we go out to put an air conditioning in or a boiler, we will turn up. We're not a fit and forget company. We will come back and we will fix that product and put it right. A lot of the people that are putting them in will not come back. Get your manufacturer, you just get kicked and basically left out in the cold, really, or left out in the warm in the summer, whatever you want to call it. But ultimately, you've got to think, why is the company dearer than the one-man band? Now, I'm not knocking all one-man bands, because you obviously got to start somewhere, but you've just got to be wary, because my work ethics was, I went through a lot of situations where I was going back and I was pulling me out. I'm thinking, I can't do this plumbing. A lot of people give up, and I understand why, but you've got to keep pushing through that. So it's very important to make sure in the summer months you've got a plan. You've got a marketing strategy. You've got something to bring that work in, because if you can lose £1,000 each month, that's cool, because you're making the other months. But if you're losing £30,000 a month because you've got no work for your lads, you've got a problem. So I'd urge everybody to look at the summer months, because this, regardless of what people say, is a seasonal business. Going back to, if you're doing bathrooms, you're doing everything, you're pretty much busy all year, but majority of the time, and I hate to say that, you're a busy fool. So ultimately, just have a look at how you can keep yourself busy. Look at service plans. Not for everybody. Look at my servicing. Can I do that all in the summer? Can I push it to the summer so that I can keep busy? So I'm doing all my installation, and what it does, it frees up your time for installing. You don't want to be going out servicing boilers in the winter if you're an installer, but you won't mind doing the servicing in the summer, because ultimately you won't have as many installations on. So you've got to look at how can you do that and what's the best option for you, your business and your team. The girls in the office, I'm going to quickly touch on them. So what the girls in the office do, they'll do stuff to get working. So when it's not as busy for them, they'll concentrate on marketing campaigns, backlinking customers, getting back in touch with customers, warming them back up, re-engaging them into stuff, offering them home cares, all these things in your team when you've got, and also another thing, all these things in your team, sorry, I digress a little bit then, but all these things in your team, you've got to basically make sure that everyone's doing it, because I find that if you're working with your team and it's summer, especially the office, they get a bit bored and you get a bit like lackadaisical and, chitty-chatty, and they'd much rather be busy, our team, than actually being like that. So we've come up with ways. Also, we'll have a look at all the old debts that we've got. How can we keep busy? Can we start chasing these customers now for these money? We might get £1,000 in out of 5 that we've lost, but at least we'll get something in. So it's all about how can we keep busy, because keeping busy through those 3 or 4 months time where you're down is where you will lose your money. That's where you'll get hit hard. You'll go on holiday, your team will be going on holiday, because most heating companies, everybody has it off in the summer. Bits and bats through the winter, but ultimately mainly the summer. So you take advantage of that. make sure, right, lads, can you take your holidays and girls in the summer, because in the winter I need you in. Now, you can't expect them to if they've got a wedding or something like that. You've got to do it. It's just all about thinking out the box. How can we keep busy, and how can we make that 100 grand a month turnover, if it drops to 50, how can we still make that profitable? Because the way to do it is look at what you can afford to lose, look at that structure, and if you actually make money in that time, like we're currently doing, which is amazing, is how have I done it? And that's how I've done it. I've looked at how can we keep busy. When you are busy, you need to still keep marketing, hammering marketing. When you are not busy, you need to market more. These are just my opinions. I hope these tips will help you. And again, if you've got any questions or anything, just reach out to me, because I've done this for years and years and years. And I'm only just about getting my head around it now. And that's because I'm part of mentorships. I'm going meeting other heating companies. We're speaking. I've got them on speed dial. There's so much information out there. And I believe that heating engineers want us to do good, because we are a dying trade. There is plenty of work out there for us all. Another thing which I've noticed is that, especially around my area, I think the prices could go up a little bit, but we're all scared of putting them up, because if we put them up a little bit, that would compensate for the summertime again. So it's again a pricing structure thing, but you can only charge what the local market will pay you. So ultimately, I hope this advice has been good for you. Take care, guys.